on the YouTube. We're live. We're live.
We are
I want to
live.
make sure that we're up everywhere because we don't have in-house producers, so we got to check this out ourselves. We are live on X, and we should be live on the YouTube. Let me check real quick.
We are live on YouTube as well. I see us
We
there.
are perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, let's get it going. We ain't gonna wait for people to filter in because more than likely there ain't gonna be no people who filter in because our audience knows us as the podcast people. So let's kick off this intro to the show. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Monarch Legacy of Monsters, the official first episode of our coverage of Legacy of Monsters on the Story Archives show. I'm your host, Mario Busto, alongside.
The other host, Zachary Newton. Welcome back.
It's our first deep dive, Zach, and it's our first official live stream going live on YouTube. We got one viewer. That's probably you with the feed open,
No,
or
we
me
actually
on
got a
Twitter.
comment already from Jonathan Buckley. So thank you. He says, "Hey guys from New Zealand."
Very nice.
That's awesome. You are
Very nice.
officially, I think, our first live stream watcher. So welcome.
Jonathan gets the badge for first comment ever on a live stream. So you will always hold that honor, sir. Let's screenshot this and keep this. I'm going to screenshot it, in fact, right now. And I do want this chat overlay on the actual feed here. So we will just keep this running. Now, if we can make that translucent, this is an active experiment here. We're iterating, going to become better at the live stream game, getting better here and there. Okay, that's what I want. I want them to just pop up on the bottom left, and then we'll just close that out. Perfect. There we go. Jonathan, yeah, first episode was amazing. I haven't watched the second one yet. This is not for episode 2. This is just for episode 1, titled Aftermath, and we're going to go through it. We're going to talk about the key scenes. We're going to kind of approach it maybe deep dive / high level approach, but the one thing I love about this show, Zach, is that it lends itself to discussion. It lends itself to a lot of what if scenarios. What would you do if there was a giant reptile lurking over your city? And nice. Jonathan hasn't watched episode 2.
You're in the same boat.
We're going to talk about a lot today. We're going to get into it all. We're going to talk about the characters we were introduced to. And yeah, we'll go from there.
Sweet.
Hey, Crims.
For those of you not watching the live stream, we're live streaming this. So if you're listening to this later, you missed it. But maybe you can join us the next time that we do this. I love seeing all the comments from everybody. This is fun. It's the first time we're doing it. So give us some love, give us some feedback on this as well.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
We'll be, of course, editing this as always and posting this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. It will also be up later. But if you want to join us for these live streams, we're planning on doing at least all of Monarch Legacy of Monsters on live stream. Eventually, we may be even doing more than that. But for now, probably starting with that and then seeing where it goes. But all right, shall we kick into it? First initial impressions, Zach, of the show. Yesterday, before we did our For All Mankind coverage, which shout out to that. We're also covering season 4 of For All Mankind. You mentioned that you watched the first 15 minutes and you just knew right off the bat that this was a slightly different show than Apple typically makes.
Yeah, I'm really liking it so far. I mean, my first comment to you, I guess, off air was that, man, I'm 10 minutes in, 10, 15 minutes in, and it doesn't feel like an Apple show, and I'm okay with it. I think they really did a good job on the first episode here, and I'm really hoping that they keep it up and that we don't get a season 2 treatment of, Invasion. But I'm very excited for episode 2. I don't think this one's gonna, let me down. And it's also been a long time since I've watched any like Godzilla things. So like I want to preface this by like I'm not a Godzilla expert. I don't like I was just shocked. I was like, what King Kong is in this? I know there was like a mashup, but I didn't realize it was the whole same universe. So I found that interesting. But no, it's really cool. I like what's going on. I'm very curious to see all of the monsters coming out of here. So I'm excited, man.
I'll say this is bad PR for Bigfoot. After we saw the footage and we saw you see these giant spiders. We see this giant crab that looks like something out of Elden Ring. We see a giant gorilla as in King Kong. And then we see Godzilla, who doesn't disappoint. And I think that's a big thing with these shows, right? You can't have the monster reveal be underwhelming. And every single monster you saw in this episode it puts you in the scenario, like in the beginning of the episode when we see John Goodman running through Skull Island. It's 1973, and he's running frantically through the jungle with this research, right?
Yeah.
And you see this damn spider behind him, and you think that's the worst thing, and it just keeps on getting worse and worse. It's almost like that movie with Jason Statham, The Meg, with the giant shark, where there's like this creature, and then the Meg comes out of the water and eats the T-Rex. Like there's a creature that's worse than them all, and Godzilla is known as the king of all monsters. So yeah, and Jonathan, to your point, 100 times better than Invasion Season 2. Apple, we still love you.
We do. We do. But this is what you should really be investing your money into. It's Monarch.
Yeah.
That
right.
should be it.
All right, let's get into the episode a little bit here. We're going to go through from beginning to end, starting with that intro. Now, there is a movie about King Kong that's about Skull Island. And like Zach was saying, if you're looking for the definitive encyclopedic approach to all of Godzilla history, this is not the place for you. But we are fans of the monster genre. We are fans of sci-fi, and we are fans of Apple original programming because they haven't really let us down too often. And this one doesn't seem like it's going to either. So we're here for it. We're here to discuss it, and we're here to have a good time. So let's get into it. We start off like many Apple shows. We're not in one timeline. We are in several different time periods. We're going between 1973, 1957, a little bit of 2013, and 2015 is the modern day in this show. You got 1973, the first intro we see. We are introduced to John Goodman's character, who is unnamed at this point on the show. For all we know, he seems to have stolen something from a business partner of some sort, and he's sending one last message to him to what could be inevitably his doom. And although, like I always say, if you don't see the body, they're not dead. He is presumably dead at this point because the way he ends his message. But if he survived that encounter with the giant king crab and the spider, maybe he got off the island as well.
I think he may have gotten off the island, right? Let's give him some credit.
Yeah.
Well, he seems like he's gonna hold up pretty well. I mean, look, the crab helped him, so there's hope.
Yeah, I think for one, he's an A-list actor, John Goodman, right? So you're not going to just take him out of the show incredibly fast, right? But then again, we saw a literal bus full of children fall into the Pacific Ocean in this episode. So I think anything's on the table. We saw a main character potentially die in Kay as she's getting dragged down by these larvae, these freaking human-sized larvae, just bringing her down. And very intelligent, by the way. They were kind of climbing each other to reach her because they couldn't one of them couldn't reach her. So they all sort of hive-minded kind of used each other to reach her and bring her down into whatever they're going to.
It kind of reminded me of what's that movie, World War Z, where you got all the zombies just kind of piling up on each other to get over the wall. That's what it reminded me of.
That's exactly what I thought of. It's like the only thing I remember from that movie is the zombies going
It's
over.
the iconic moment. I know. That's the one thing that sticks out to me. I was going to say, I hope that John Goodman's character is still alive, but don't forget, this is still an Apple show, even though it might not feel as much like an Apple show right now.
Yeah.
They don't have a good pattern with, keeping certain people around.
Yeah, they're pretty ruthless in terms of how they treat their star actors. Bear with us if we see your chat and we answer it and we come back to it a little later as we kind of go back and forth between the covering the show and then scanning the comments. Zach, you can be in charge of it, but don't get too distracted with them at this point. Otherwise, we'll bomb the podcast. Anyways, John Goodman throws his research into the ocean and it drifts for 40 years in non-waterproof VHS cases. I don't understand how that research survived, but nonetheless, it falls into the hands of Cate, our main protagonist, it seems, in the modern day 2015. And it falls to her father's hands in the Sea of Japan. I guess he was a commercial fisherman, and it was just in this net of what seemed to be dead fish, to be honest. All those fish seemed dead to me, but
pretty dead and slimy too. It looked like, I don't know.
And that's
I don't know why they were so slimy.
And that's where the show really sets the stage, right? We have this mysterious research that is supposed to, who knows, tell the world about the discovery of monsters, or who knows what, because it seems like the world already knows monsters exist, because Japan has these alarms, this signage everywhere. They have even like the same way you'd have like an earthquake procedure, right? They have Godzilla procedures where everybody is going with to these tunnels, which that's not the place I would want to be. But then again, where is a safe place when you have a skyscraper dinosaur over your city, right?
Can we call it a dinosaur? I don't know if we can call it a dinosaur. You know, one of the things that I did like about this show, at least from my understanding, I did like a tiny little bit of digging before we started recording, like literally just minutes before. And, you know, it seems like with some of the movies and just other videos that have been produced and are out there in the real world, like this kind of ties into that greater story. Like there is like a lot of like overlap, from my understanding at the very least.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like I was missing anything when we started this. Like, I think they did a really good job of bringing me up to speed with, like, what's going on in the world, the fact that Godzilla attacked San Francisco, like, I think it worked really well. I didn't feel lost.
Yeah, and I think that they made a big deal to not build up the reveal of Godzilla too much, right? Because in a show where the mystery or the villain or the monster, so to speak, is someone that you've never seen before, um, you got to be careful of not building that up so much that the audience loses interest once they've seen the monster. And in this
Mhm.
case, you see Godzilla pretty early. We meet Cate, who's on her way to Tokyo to settle her father's affairs, who is presumably dead. His plane in Alaska supposedly got lost in a storm, and he hasn't been seen from since. But in my knowledge of the Godzilla lore, like the King Kong Godzilla lore, because I think it's all connected, we see a bit of it in this show. So those movies have to be connected somehow with the show. And it's one of those things where, if you noticed in 1957, the two scientists and the soldier, they talk
Mhm.
about this hole. The little boy
Yeah.
from Kazakhstan, he talks about that the scientists dug a hole to the center of the earth. In the whole Skull Island movie, there is a world inside the core of the earth that doesn't operate the way uh, the earth does. And so that's where these monsters sort of live. That's kind of like the long story short. I don't know how much they're going to stick to that plan or how much of that actually exists on the regular earth itself, but here we are.
I agree. Crims, who is, you know, sending some comments through on the live stream, made a point, which I took note of as well. A little later on in the episode, you know, this guy is sent to protect. I forget their names at the moment.
Kay
I'm
and
a little
Billy.
slow.
Kay
Thank
and
you. I'm a
Billy.
little slow on picking up on new character names, but he's sent there to protect these two, and all he brings is a pistol. And he's sent there on orders of the military. I was like, red flag number one. That doesn't seem so safe.
So I noticed a few things with that dynamic of that trio. First, I think that Wyatt Russell's character, who actually that is a soldier. His name in the show is Lee Shaw.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't mention it too much. They just say his name Lee a couple of times, right? I think he has the hots for Kay, right? Did you notice kind of like this sort of resentment towards Billy
A little bit.
and the way he was treating his wife Kay, which at this point they have already had their son, based on some little dialogue in the car. But
Mhm.
anyways, I don't think he was expecting that this lead they had was going to actually come to fruition like this. And the excitement overwhelmed them to a point that they decided to go and get samples from something that they probably should have waited a little longer to go with reinforcements to prove it. But then again, it's 1957. I don't believe at this point that yeah, thanks, Jonathan. He definitely has the hots for her.
Agreed.
I don't think in 1957 that the world had acknowledged the the monsters being just a part of this world, you know?
Yeah. You're probably right on that. You know, the other thing that I'm really curious about is this whole like the radiation thing, right? Like I'd love to know how
Great point.
there's like this radiation that's just going out everywhere. I mean, it's being at least picked up by these what sensors, but the moment they get past this barrier, it just disappears. That'd make me a little nervous too. I'd
Well,
love to know the tech behind that. Is that humans doing that and just trying to keep people away somehow? Or is there something, I don't know, coming off the monsters?
No, there's actually the radiation does tie into why these monsters exist in the first place, and I had to do a little digging because have you ever heard that Godzilla is kind of like a sensitive subject for like in Japan? It's not like
No.
it's not taboo or it's not something like forbidden to talk about, but it's one of those things where I've always heard that it was kind of like this thing that was used against Japan, and then I had to look into like what that meant, so to speak. And I found this on Wikipedia. Okay.
I'm ready. Let's go.
Here's a little bit I found. Godzilla is a prehistoric reptilian monster, awakened and empowered after many years by nuclear radiation. With the nuclear bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the Lucky Dragon 5 incident still fresh in the Japanese consciousness, Godzilla was conceived as a metaphor for nuclear weapons. Others have suggested that Godzilla is a metaphor for the United States, a giant beast woken from its slumber, which then takes terrible vengeance on Japan. I mean, Pearl Harbor and the rest of it.
Yeah,
Everyone
I
knows
got.
history.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not everybody knows history, but Godzilla has been considered a filmographic metaphor for the U.S. as well as an allegory of nuclear weapons in general. The earlier Godzilla films, especially the original, portrayed Godzilla as a frightening nuclear spawn monster. Godzilla represented the fears that many Japanese held about the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the possibility of recurrence. So I think Godzilla, the whole lore of it is that he has grown this large due to some freak science reaction with the radiation that's made him, explode. Actually, isn't it Godzilla a girl? If it's producing all these,
I
I'm
would
thinking,
imagine
I'm
so.
thinking back to the Matthew Broderick Godzilla, like in the early 2000s, where Godzilla has a bunch of like eggs, I believe, and that movie's terrifying, by the way. I don't know if it still holds weight, but seeing like the shakes like in the water, like the little ripples
Yeah.
in the water, it's kind of like Jurassic Park, right?
So what you're really saying is that Godzilla was created by Oppenheimer?
Pretty much, pretty much. Yeah.
I love all these tie-ins from the things that we watch. It's fun.
At the end of it all, it's just like Oppenheimer looking over a lake, and that's pretty much how the whole series ends. But all right, let's get
Phenomenal.
back to the show here. Something happens on Kate's trip to Japan. She unfortunately finds out that her father was living a double life that we know of. We don't know much about this man. We don't know about his dark secrets and what he's been doing, but seems that he had a family in the US and he had a family over here in Japan. And she meets them. Now, which order these relationships happened, we don't get clarity on that, but she does have a half brother named Kentaro who's a little bit hostile towards her at first, but then seems to be a relationship that is getting a little warmer because they start to work with each other at the end when he shows her their
Yeah.
father's office. They uncovered the evidence, and then he enlists, kind of douchey, but he enlists his ex-girlfriend who he's ghosted for a few months to help him decrypt the research, which she seems still into it. So
Yeah.
you
They were
got your
both a little hostile to each other, brother and sister. I mean, I can understand why.
yeah.
You never knew the other one existed, and you both found out that your father was cheating on your mothers.
And they both right off the bat wanted to know that they wanted to both assume that they were the favorites of their dad, right?
Yeah.
Even so much so that she's asking when she's trying out the pin codes on the vault.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she eventually comes to the realization that he pretty much loved them all equally. That's what it felt
Yeah.
like, right? Because it's kind of funny and at the same time kind of horrible to think about it if you were in that situation, right?
Yeah, it really makes you wonder what this guy is doing all the time. Like we see him basically run away from his daughter and his wife over in San Francisco later on in
Yeah.
this episode. So like, I mean, he's got to be pretty involved with Monarch or something. I just I don't understand.
How do you get away with that like in the 2000s? I feel like you could get away with that pretty easily having a double like two families in like 1950, but like 20 to 2010, like that's kind
You
of
mean when
tough.
Find My just your wife can just pull you up and like Find My iPhone or something? Find My Friends.
Pretty much. Like, you're in Japan? Like what's going on? Why are you here
Yeah.
for 3 months?
Why? I don't know.
FaceTime me. What
Weird.
apartment is that? Whatever.
We just
But
got
hey,
attacked by Godzilla, and you're over in your apartment in Japan. Okay, all
yeah,
right.
exactly. Exactly.
Goodbye.
All right. The Kazakhstan story. So we have those two scientists, and I assume I think the first episode's kind of the hardest to kind of get your bearings of what's going on, but these two are here on a lead. It seems that they have been researching this for years, and their leads have taken them to this abandoned plant in Kazakhstan, which supposedly has heavy radiation. But the boy dispels that. The boy they meet in the forest who holds them at gunpoint, he dispels that. He says that's a myth to keep people away who are curious, which seems to
Hmm.
be what you were saying, Zach, that this is purposeful, throw off the scent of anything that could be here so that you stay away from what's going down here. Now, one would wonder why they would leave a hatchery, like a nest of monsters here unsurveilled, but I'm sure we'll get to that at some point in the show.
I hope so. I really hope so. I want to know how many other like monsters, we're gonna end up watching or finding at least in this show. It kind of I don't know what it reminded me of for a moment of like Pokemon or something, just like discovering all of these little monsters everywhere. That or Lilo and Stitch. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Lilo and Stitch?
Hey man, look, I gotta bring up something. You bring up Game of Thrones and everything. I can only pull, SpongeBob in for so many episodes, so I'll grab something else.
Um, yeah, let's continue on here with the episode. So they set off the explosives at the plant, which of course is the natural decision to blow up the ground around a nuclear power plant, right? Which pretty much dissolves the entire ground underneath them. They discover a horrifying sight, which are these eggs. By the way, the hatchery and the eggs being there is not the most surprising thing. The most surprising thing is that as they were driving to this location, I would have bet $100 that the guy played by Wyatt Russell, Lee, was this woman's romantic interest and not the kind of dweeby scientist guy. If I had to guess, if I had to just completely judge them right off the bat,
Yeah, I mean, I feel
was
like they
that
have better chemistry at the very least, right?
yeah, one was willing to dive in the hole with her. The other one stayed up top and couldn't pull her over the railing fast enough, right? So she dies as a
It's
result of it.
Don't
Pretty
you
bad.
think if you were her husband, you'd be the one to wanna go down there with her, though?
Instead
Like,
of her
if you're
instead of her
also the
going down.
scientist exactly. That
Yeah.
that or instead of, right? Like, either be the one to go with her or go instead of her going down, though, she really did wanna go collect those samples herself, I guess.
Maybe she wanted to be the first human to ever, kind of have that breakthrough. Now, granted, she did say it was because she was lighter that she should go down there, but heavy
It
risk.
didn't
And
really
now,
seem much like she was lighter. He
yeah,
couldn't pull her up.
I know. Well, it's like it's not easy, right? I figured just dead weight on that rope over that rusty railing. But look, I'm a big proponent of the whole if you don't see the body, they're not dead. But I have a hard time believing that she's alive. Like she
Dude,
has to
like,
be dead.
there is no way. Like, they fell through the earth. Like, they were
Yeah,
surrounding her. I was, however, expecting that scene to be a lot more gory than it was. It wasn't really gory at all. Like, they just kind of, like,
I don't
crawled
think.
up her until she was heavy enough to fall into the earth.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're gonna get like a really gory show here, but I guess that'll play out as the season progresses. Let's talk a little bit more about Cate because while she's there, we get this really haunting scene as she leaves the apartment and the call cuts out with her mother. And it's a
Mhm.
Godzilla false alarm, which I was kind of glad it was a false alarm. I didn't want a full-fledged Godzilla attack on
Not that
screen.
early in the show,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. So I'm it was kind of like if you're watching Jaws and you think the Jaws attack's gonna happen, but it's the music starting. You ever seen Jaws where the music starts, but there
Oh,
isn't an
yeah.
attack? It's just
Yeah.
the imagination of what's beneath in the depths,
Mhm.
right? That's kind of how I want Godzilla to be. I want it to be this sort of like this ramping up of conflict the entire series, and then when the conflict's at its worst, when it would be the worst possible timing for Godzilla to attack, he attacks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you notice that the, attack on San Francisco, I believe they call it G-Day? It's
G
Godzilla
Day.
Day.
Oh, I did
Yeah.
not catch that, but that's interesting because
Yeah.
I would have. You're kind of made to believe, based on how the episode goes, that this is the first instance of a major monster attack on the city. But you do get the sort of whisperings and the hints that the world is different because even when she's coming off the plane, they spray the whole plane, right? And the guy next to
Yeah.
her says, It's all about the safety, the illusion of safety. They think that if they spray you, that they're going to ward off monster attacks, which is an interesting comment to make, right?
I thought when I was watching this episode and they were starting to spray the plane, I thought this was gonna be like peak COVID season inside of the show or
That's what I
something.
thought. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Which I was like, not another
I
COVID
know.
storyline,
I
man,
was a little
bro.
annoyed by that. I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right. They
Yeah,
think it's gonna protect them from Godzilla.
we're
What is
we're
this?
over it,
Like
man. No,
skunk
no,
spray or something?"
we're over it. Anyways, I wanted to talk about her traumatic experience with Godzilla in San Francisco
Mhm.
because she was possibly in the worst situation one can be in. She was in a loaded school bus full of
Oh, yeah.
children, which I thought she would have been a scientist or like someone like who worked hunting these monsters, but she's a school
No, she's
teacher,
gonna
which
get pulled
kind of
into it.
yeah, that's what's kind of more interesting about it is that she's going to get pulled into this world. But nonetheless, she was on the Golden Gate Bridge, not the place you want to be. You don't want to be on a bridge when a giant reptile attacks your city. Okay, you don't want to be on a bridge. You don't want to
No.
be in a bus with 50 kids. And unfortunately for those 50 kids, only like 2 of them got out. I thought the whole bus was going to get saved and she would be a hero. But no, it was just like 2 kids at the front who were moving faster than everybody else. They got off. The rest on the bottom of the sea at this moment,
Yeah, this shows I you know, I will say though, as sad as it is that you just killed 48 kids in a school bus,
pretty
I
much.
I am happy that, at least this show, like there is some sense of risk, right?
Mhm.
Like there is some death. I mean, like for all mankind, they don't pull any punches there. I'm curious to see if they kind of like keep this up in Monarch Legacy of Monsters, but so far I'm happy with it. I'm happy that I'm a little nervous anytime, Godzilla's coming around the corner.
Yeah,
Hey,
no, no,
Space
no.
Case is here, by the way, and the chat. Welcome.
Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. I'm actually interested to know what I would love to hear like a ranking. Like everybody give what would be your worst possible scenario to find yourself the moment Godzilla strikes? Like, what would be the worst place to be in? Because I'm putting, like I said, the school bus full of children on top of the Golden Gate Bridge in packed traffic. I think that's got to be near the worst. So, anybody else who wants to chime in and put their worst case Godzilla scenarios, please drop it in the chat.
I
All
think
right.
the worst place to be when Godzilla's on his way is in the same hemisphere that Godzilla's in.
Yeah, pretty much. What I wonder how fast Godzilla can move from San Francisco to Japan, right?
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I wonder if he can like, again, not a Godzilla expert. I wonder if you can like swim around really quickly. I don't know how quickly you can move through the center of the Earth. Um, I don't know. I
You
mean,
think he's
whenever
moving
you
through
see
the
these big
center of the earth?
monsters, like
I think he's
not
out of.
like
I
not
think he's
through the
out of that.
center of the Earth, but
Yeah.
like I don't know. There's the underground like tunnels and whatnot. I don't know. I mean, these big monsters move slow, but one step is like a mile.
I'm assuming Godzilla's not going like he's not. He has escaped whatever hellhole he came from, and he is now just in the earth raining terror. Right now, I wonder if
Yeah.
this is going to be a full-on evil Godzilla or if this is going to be a good Godzilla, because there are sometimes some movies have him as a villain and some movies have him as a good guy.
I don't know that this is going to be the show where Godzilla rises up to fight the other monsters. I don't think that's going to be the case. There was a movie about that, if I remember correctly. It was like what Godzilla King of the Monsters or something like that. Like
All right, it was like King
I
Kong. It
swear
was
that was a
King
movie.
Kong versus Godzilla. There was a
Oh,
movie
there
that
was one where they like teamed up and fought this AI Godzilla as a creature thing
oh
as well, huh?
yeah, yeah. I think it's like an old one though, but
I never watched it. I just remember seeing some of the videos from it.
yeah. All right, let's get to Cate and Kentaro going through the research that they uncover in their father's vault. They enlist May, who is Kentaro's, ex fling, right? Who's also a talented.
You're on a break.
They're on a. She's on a break.
No.
He's out. He's gone. Like he's past the break, bro. He put in his 2 weeks. Um, they decrypt the information, which I found interesting. The fact that it was able to flag Monarch, the organization, despite it being just a tape, a physical tape.
So I was very confused about that as well. I was like, how on earth would you know that somebody's like is reading an analog tape? I literally wrote that in my notes. And then a moment later realized what she did, what May did was she uploaded a very small piece of the encrypted data to a service online to decrypt it to make sure it worked. And then like she didn't upload the whole thing, it was just a small piece of it, right? So
Yeah,
then
yeah.
she took it offline and decrypted it there. But because it was online at that point and the logo was caught, that's I guess what happened.
Yeah,
They caught it.
what the engineer at Monarch said, which I'm assuming it's Monarch, right?
Yeah.
Um, is that they flagged the Monarch recognition code. So just despite it being a tape, it still flagged the system because they had one of those codes on the tape, which is pretty impressive technology considering it was 1973 when those tapes were recorded, right? That they thought about these things 40 years in the past.
Yeah. Military grade
Pretty remarkable.
encryption. 40
Yeah.
years old.
Yep. Yep.
Phenomenal.
Yep. 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 Inside those tapes, we get leaked images of Bigfoot, which all the Sasquatch believers out there rejoiced, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and we saw some other monsters. Pretty much what it seems like these tapes uncover is the existence of these monsters roaming the earth.
Yeah. Roaming the earth. I mean, we also see a photo of her grandmother, right?
Kate.
Like in what looks like the footprint of Kate's grandmother in the footprint of Godzilla or some
Yes,
massive
yes,
monster. I'm
some
assuming it's
massive footprint,
Godzilla.
which puts the timeline at okay. So if they had photos of Kay in that footprint, right? And
Yeah.
that was 1973 when he had those tapes. Then Kay had to have survived that monster pileup at the bottom of the hole because that was 1957.
Yeah, but the photo could have been old. Like it doesn't mean that the photo was from the
Oh yeah,
70s,
I
right?
mean,
Like it could have
yeah,
just been old
true.
old records and like I don't know, maybe he took them because they're maybe Monarch is trying to keep something. I mean, it clearly seems like they're trying to keep something a secret. We just don't know what it is. Um, so she very well could be dead.
She does age magnificently if that photo was from 1957 and was put in 1973.
Yeah.
That yeah, she ages like fine wine. And like Jonathan saying, Kate is hot, which is her granddaughter in the show. Crims mentions that the worst situation you could be in when Godzilla attacks is to be naked. That would be pretty bad. So, all right. San Fran, the
I don't know how
last
to respond to that one. I'll agree.
being naked with Godzilla
Yeah,
attacking.
that'd be pretty terrifying.
Would you rather be butt naked when Godzilla attacks you, or would you rather be on a school bus full of children on the Golden Gate Bridge?
Hopefully wearing clothes.
You're wearing
Um,
clothes, yes. You're not naked.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'd probably rather be in a school bus. I mean, it'd be an interesting sensation to take a plunge down into the ocean, I guess. I don't know.
I think I'd rather be naked. Just think about it. First and foremost, you're not gonna have to deal with the guilt of having lost all these kids on this bridge. Secondly, the stories you're gonna be able to tell. Like, yeah, I was
I was
there.
standing on a mountaintop.
I was about to take a shower, and Godzilla ripped my roof off. I was butt naked, and I had to run through the streets to the whatever.
Yeah.
You're gonna tell that story for the rest of your life. But we only got one scene with Kate's father, and I need to IMDb his name because I didn't catch it in the actual series. Yeah,
His real
I
name
don't
or
believe
his name in here?
in the show. In the show,
Mm.
I don't believe we have it yet. But if anybody caught the name of Kate's dad in the first episode, please drop it in the chat. But we see a scene in 2014 shortly after the Godzilla attack occurred, and he essentially is giving Kate directions of where to go after the attack. He's telling her to take her mother, that she's gonna have to take care of her mother, take her to
Mhm.
Reno, and that he has a hotel in their name. So he had a plan in check. He probably did something similar with the Japanese family of his. And then I'm assuming he went to Alaska and got on that plane to God knows where. I'm assuming to Skull Island. I think all of this eventually just leads back to Skull Island, like we saw at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, I would imagine that we're gonna get pulled back in there. I don't think there was any need for him. Was his name Hiroshi? Like, I feel like I remember hearing that at some point in the episode, but
I have
maybe
no idea.
maybe I heard what his name is. But anyways, I don't think he would have done that for his family in Japan because I mean they weren't getting attacked. It was he probably had something ready to go.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I don't know why he went to Canada.
Yeah. I wanted to make another mention since we know that Kay, the woman in the flashback from 1957, is Kate's grandmother. They do
Hmm.
mention that she died while their father was young. So if she doesn't die in that flashback, she does die shortly after. And the other interesting thing is we know Kurt Russell is in this show, although he's not introduced in this episode. And it's kind of funny because as we saw Wyatt Russell, as I've mentioned earlier in this stream,
Yeah.
he's his son in real life, and he's probably going to play his father on the show, and Kurt's going to play his. Oh no, no, no! He's going to play the older version of
Yeah.
his
Lee
son.
Shaw.
Yeah,
Yeah. They both play Lee Shaw in this,
yeah,
I believe.
yeah.
So
They both play Lee Shaw. Yep. Okay, and we end the episode with a cliffhanger, which, by the way, leaves you. I barely could resist hitting episode 2. I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to watch it either tonight or tomorrow morning, and we'll do our second recording for our
mhm.
deep dive on that. But it just leaves you with the most cliffhanger of cliffhangers. With her dad is Takahiro Hiroshi. Okay, so the father is Hiroshi, like you mentioned. That's the name of the dad of Cate and Kentaro. We end the
Right.
episode with Kay falling to presumably her death after Billy, her dweebish scientist husband, could not pull her over the railing in time. And Lee looks on with his pistol, the knife that he brought to the gunfight, right?
Seriously. Gun he
Mhm.
brought to the monster fight? I don't know.
Which ends
None of those
episode
add up.
1, the season premiere or the series premiere of Monarch Legacy of Monsters.
Yeah. Great episode. I was lucky because I had to start work right as I ended this episode today. So I couldn't watch the next one. So I am excited to get that one in. I don't think it's gonna disappoint.
Where do you see the season going from here? What do you think are going to be? What's going to be the trajectory of season 1?
I mean, I think Kate and her newfound brother are gonna just continue to team up. I'm sure May will be a part of the little Scooby Doo gang that we got building here.
Mhm.
They're gonna go catch themselves some monsters. I don't know what the mystery is with um, with Monarch. I don't know what they're trying to hide, what they're so secretive of. I mean, I feel like in a world where San Francisco is destroyed by Godzilla, everybody knows monsters exist. So I don't know what they're trying to cover up.
Maybe the
Um,
origins of these monsters.
could be the origins of it. That would be interesting. I mean, maybe they're like maybe they're controlling the monsters in some way, right? Like, can you imagine if they were like using them as weapons?
Mhm.
Or training them to be used as weapons. I don't know. Like maybe that's a possibility, and that's what they're trying to hide up, and Kate's father was trying to potentially expose. Um, that's probably the best guess I have right now. I don't have a lot of expectations on where this goes just yet, um, nor a lot to build that opinion off of. So
Well, it's
take it with a grain
interesting
of
to me
salt.
because we've been calling it the Godzilla show pretty much. We have the cover art of our podcast at the moment has a 50-50. We have Godzilla on one side and we have For All Mankind on the other.
Hmm.
Yet the show is called Legacy of Monsters.
Yeah,
So it's probably not going to just be Godzilla. I'm assuming it might be multiple monsters and really um, what's at the core, right? What is really the secret behind the existence of these creatures and why these super mega monsters even exist in the first place? But I'm very glad that I actually have no idea which direction it's going in, other than the breadcrumbs we have of Cate and Kentaro going to investigate what their father's involvement was with Monarch. And as the
yeah,
audience,
I
we know
agree.
more about Monarch than Cate and Kentaro do at this moment, right? We're privy to a little bit more information than they are, but
Just a little.
nonetheless, we have enough secrets and mystery to keep us going the rest of the way. He did
Agreed.
appear, Crims.
Yeah.
They did show Kong.
in the
And you
very
men-
beginning.
and
Yeah,
you
in the
and you
Super 8
mentioned
film.
that Kong isn't Kong the good guy. Most of the time, Kong is the good guy. I've noticed in the recent movies I've seen. I don't recall a King Kong movie that Kong was evil. Um,
Yeah.
I feel like Godzilla. I've seen Godzilla evil more than Kong. Kong seems like more like
Self-defense, like he's evil to those that are, wishing him harm, right? You try to kill him or capture him.
yeah. Oh, I think he's like has a higher IQ than Godzilla. Like I don't think
I
Godzilla
would
is.
imagine.
I don't remember ever seeing a moment where Godzilla's like that. Damn, that's a smart lizard over there. But Kong,
It's
like,
just a big dumb elephant walking
yeah,
around stepping on cities.
yeah. All right. Do we have any categories for this episode? And feel free to follow along in the chat if you want to put your answers in there as well.
We do have some categories, but let's start with favorite scene
Okay.
in the episode.
I think the brief flashback to the Godzilla attack in San Francisco was pretty epic. And the score and the sound effects that they introduced Godzilla with were just all in all, like they really set the atmosphere for this monster encounter. That was my
Yeah,
personal favorite.
it was really good. I I'm gonna I guess I'll zag here. I really liked, seeing the character building with Kate and, getting the introduction to this random family that she didn't know, I guess she had. So I liked that one. That one was pretty interesting. It took me by surprise. I was not expecting that. I was kind of expecting somebody to be inside of that apartment, but not her father's other wife and son.
Yeah, no, me neither. I did want to make a mention about Anna. The actress who plays Kate is Anna Sawai,
Hmm.
and she's actually in my favorite Apple TV series, or one of my favorite Apple TV series, um, called Pachinko,
Hmm.
and she plays Naomi in Pachinko. And that's an excellent, like, multi-generational story that Apple TV has been telling. I'm looking for season 2 on that. I also love the fact that a lot of these shows have taken foreign countries and kind of like put them on a showcase, right? Kind of like a um, taking a tour, right? And I told you about the show Drops of God on Apple TV, which is
You told me
heavily
about that.
heavily in Japan. I just love, I love Tokyo. I love the vibes of Japan, and just being able to see that on like a high quality level is
Hmm.
really dope, especially the scene with May as she's eating in like the night market, and she has like this cyberpunky type of lifestyle,
Oh
where
yeah.
she walks to her apartment. It's super dope. I feel like someone in the Apple creative department is like a kindred soul who also likes the same type of things. But for a season premiere, it felt almost tame, right? It felt like they weren't trying to prove themselves too much in this premiere. It felt like stick along for the ride, and you're gonna be in for a treat. It didn't feel like we're gonna show you our hand right out the gate. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Completely agree. All right, let's pivot to the next category. Favorite character of the episode.
favorite character of the episode. Is it safe to say Godzilla? Uh, Godzilla
I think I'll permit you one Godzilla in this show.
is Godzilla the new Tommy Shelby? Is the Tommy Shelby award
I don't know.
for
Maybe. I
those
mean,
for those who
he'll
haven't
steal
tuned
every
in?
scene for sure.
For those who haven't tuned in, we have a Tommy Shelby award for this category. So every single yeah, Jonathan loves Kate. I'm with you,
I agree.
Jonathan. I
My
mean,
favorite character of the episode as well.
she's gonna be a fan favorite, I think, for a lot of people out there. But yeah, Kate. Yeah. What if we got her on the show? That would be insane. But she seems
That'd
to
be
be
awesome.
taken off as an actor right now. So we'll see. Um, so yours is Kate then. Yours is
Yeah,
Kate.
mine's Kate. Yeah, I agree with Jonathan here.
Old lady killed it. Are you talking about that's from
The
Crims?
grandmother.
Kay, or are you talking about the mistress of the second wife of Hiroshi that lives in Japan?
That'll be an
Because she was,
interesting
because
one.
she was a, she was. They all killed it. I think the casting was terrific on this season for who they chose, and I'm glad to see Wyatt Russell in something big because he has one of the best Black Mirror episodes where he's testing a video game, and I'm not going to spoil it, but
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah. Crims, that was good.
Mother of the
I thought
boy.
that mother character was honorable. Like she was super honorable, despite the fact that she's been cheated on and her husband has a double life. She's not taking it out on Cate. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
Cate and Kentaro are taking it out on each other. Can we ship Cate and May? May's hot too. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm not gonna lie, man.
Make
Like,
a Black Mirror episode.
yeah, for real, for real. All right. Any other categories, Zach? Do you want to lay
We got,
some wagers already, or what are we doing?
we got 2 more categories. I feel like it's too early to lay some wagers. Let's
I
see
don't. I
where
think
the
we can.
show started to
I
go.
think we can lay 2 wagers right off the bat. To be
All
honest,
right.
but let's.
Let's hold off on those for a minute. Let's get to the last 2 categories. So,
No.
third category is going to be worst scene in the episode. I actually had one that I wanted to call out. I thought it was corny.
Worst scene in the episode?
Yeah.
None really stood out to me, but which was yours?
My least favorite thing in this episode was the whole, hacking scene where May was like pulling this stuff
Oh,
up.
you didn't like that?
I was man, I was cringing watching that and just seeing like, oh yeah, I'm hacking this thing, this analog tape. There's a bunch of freaking windows popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
And then like 2 or 3 times, like, I don't know, Cate walks over there and she's like, oh wait, hold up, go back, as if there's just some magical like timeline to just flip, backwards to whatever just pulled up before. I thought that one was a little lame, but I always hate those scenes because they're just never realistic. So I always take it a little personal.
I think the only thing I didn't like now, since we're on the nitpick side of the episode, the overlay they used on the old footage with the burned
The Super 8
edges,
film.
the
Yeah,
Super 8
that one.
film. I thought
Yeah.
that was pretty. I wouldn't have done.
It was
that.
a little corny.
Yeah, I wouldn't have. I
That's
wouldn't have
what I
done
felt.
that. I would have
Yeah.
just. I would have just maybe mess with the color a wee bit, to give you
Throw it in black and white or something.
Yeah.
Establish that as the pattern of historical footage.
I'm not sure. Just I'd probably make it something more faded, but not necessarily put on that, overlay, so to speak. Crims is obsessed with Kurt bringing a machine gun. If he doesn't bring a machine gun, Crims is gonna write a letter into the show. But I agree, he's got to bring some heavy. It's gonna be funny if he comes back like just with an arsenal. He's like, I tried this once and we needed a bigger boat. Whatever.
Yeah,
It's
he's
2000
gonna come back with a flamethrower or something at this point. All right,
2 wagers?
last category.
Oh,
Last
more
category.
categories. Okay.
Yeah, and then to the wagers. Favorite line or lines of the episode. I had 2 that I liked in this episode that stood out to me. I thought I chuckled.
Go for it.
So, one was, come on,
Stern
time
line.
for some science shit. That one was funny. But I think the one that I liked the most was towards the beginning of the episode where Cate, gets to Japan and she's in the taxi car, and he's like
forgot about this,
telling her about everything, and he's like, "There's more. I have a
Have a
podcast."
I thought
I like
about
that.
that too because I feel like there's just a general, like there was just an annoyance on her part where it's like, oh, this
Yeah.
is the world we live in now. Like everyone has a podcast, and that was the thing that they were kind of trying to transmit.
Yeah.
So, hey, we got a podcast too. There's more. There's more. We got 9 more episodes. So,
Yeah, we do.
all right, 2 wagers I want to talk about.
Let's do it.
We might be able to do these out the gate.
All right.
If you're new to the show, if you haven't tuned in before, we like to lay wagers on a new series, which usually results in some sort of alcoholic beverage being exchanged, whether it's a bottle of whiskey
It's
or
whiskey.
whatever is the drink of choice. Is Hiroshi alive or dead?
Hiroshi's alive.
All right, damn it. Okay. Yes, we're on the same. I cannot take
Can't take
the
the
Hiroshi
opposite on
dead.
that one.
Is Kay alive or dead?
Kay's dead. You didn't see the body. You're gonna take that she's alive.
Kay's alive.
Okay.
For now. Now I'm not saying 2015 she's alive. I'm saying 1957 she's alive.
You're saying that she's alive after being drugged down into hell by those things. Okay.
Yes.
I'll take that bet. I'm happy with that one. But yeah. I agree. I do think Hiroshi is still alive. So
okay.
That all one right. Is figure out some more in the next episode.
All right. Some housekeeping. Thank you all for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Monarch Legacy of Monsters by Story Archives. We are going to be covering this series all through season 1 every single week. Next week, the episode is dropping on Wednesday due to Thanksgiving. We're planning on a Wednesday night for that. We're also covering For All Mankind season 4, episode 1 and 2 were incredible. Those deep dives are out. And if you were rusty and unfamiliar with seasons 1 through 3 and you need a recap, we also got you covered there. We did a seasons 1 through 3 recap. If you want more shows to binge, check out our SASA Awards, our Story Archive Stamp of Approval Awards. We're working on workshopping that name a little shorter. But nonetheless, we laid out our favorite shows of the year so far. And we also have plenty more shows on the network if you just go and subscribe. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to like this video. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you can know when we're going live next. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to Jonathan Buckley for the first official streaming comment ever, for Crims for tuning in, and Space Case. Thank you so much, guys, for being active in the chat. We appreciate it. We appreciate you. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy holidays. And we'll see you soon.
Well, thank you for listening to this episode of Monarch Legacy of Monsters by Story Archives. You can find this podcast anywhere you find podcasts, Apple and Spotify podcasts primarily. You can visit us on YouTube at Soapbox Podcast Network. You can visit our website at soapbox.house. Email us at contact@soapbox.house. And finally, there is a link in the description below to sign up for our quarterly newsletter. So we hope to see you on there.
Awesome. Until next time,
Also,
y'all.
follow us on Patreon.
Avoid bridges. Avoid open waters.
And school buses.
And school buses.
Yeah.
All right. See you next time, guys. Later.
Peace.